Hello everybody, I'm sorry I had to pause there. This CD that you're hearing here, believe it or not, I did find it. This is a CD I was mentioning in a previous video. This is the Cincinnati Symphony Orchestra's Halloween CD. This word chiller here used to glow in the dark, but I guess so did the house. This happens to be one of my favorite CDs. You have to be very careful when you're, especially playing this track here, and then there's 3 more tracks on there that you have to be very careful if you play them, because as the cat here says, it can actually screw up your speakers, because it was recorded at a realistically loud level. It says it right in the book. This, of course, happens to tie back into the fact that I'm selling the book that this actual track is based on, Phantom of the Opera. Eric Koensel, God rest his soul, oversaw, the making of this CD. This actually's got the good stuff on it. Like, this is Phantom of the Opera. It's got Night on Bald Mountain on it, which is the track after this one. It's got, like, In the Hall of the Mountain King, Damnation of Faust, Poltergeist, Sleuth, Without a Clue, the Funeral March of a Marionette. I did mention Hitchcock earlier in a previous video in this series. And, in case you haven't figured out, yes, I have decided to make a Halloween series. And like I mentioned, and I wanted to discuss this a little further, I do actually, happen to be a very large fan of Halloween. It's not that I'm into witchcraft or anything, like I mentioned in the video I shot of the car of us going home. I'm not, don't get me wrong. I just happen to enjoy all things Halloween. But yeah, there are certain people that if they called me tomorrow and said, would you come do your stuff at our house, I would probably tell them no, just because, I don't, nothing against, like certain people necessarily. It's just some people I'm not exactly on good terms with, because, I don't know them well enough to actually have a good relationship with them yet, or it's very unlikely that I ever probably will. Just put it that way. I mean, it's just due to the nature of the relationship that I've had with them up to this point. It's been caca, to be completely polite. But, yeah, I just really, to be honest with you, just prefer, to keep it like local here in northern Kentucky, or like over in the Cincinnati area. No, I will not go on to Over the Rhine. Don't ask me if you live in Over the Rhine. Nothing against you, but I just don't feel safe in Over the Rhine. And if you live in Covington, the same applies to you there too. Unfortunately, no, I will not come to Covington to help you out. You're on your own on that one. Covington scares me, okay? Over the Rhine is worse in my book, because I used to work at night near Over the Rhine, and let's just say I've seen some things that scare me, okay? And most Halloween stuff doesn't scare me, and, like I mentioned, Blair Witch, in a previous video, Blair Witch, was actually pretty cleverly shot, I think. And the cool thing is, I've found out from noodling around on Yahoo, is that there's a new movie out 10 years later that's the same type setup as Blair Witch. And the cool thing is, I never realized that Heather Donahue actually has made a couple of other movies afterwards. I had asked what in the world happened to her. I got my answer today. She shot a couple of movies. I know she did the Steak and Shake commercials. But she hasn't made any other movies or anything. And she's a little older than I am. I know I've seen the one skinny boy that was in Blair Witch with her. 'cause he was in Law and Order, and I actually saw that episode. And I think he might have made a couple other things. But I remember thinking when I was watching that Law and Order, I'm like thinking, he looks so familiar. And it's like, then later when I saw his name in the credits, I said, oh my god, that's him. So it's like, you know how you look at somebody and you think, now why does this person look familiar to me? Oh, gee, I don't know. Maybe he was in Blair Witch. The little chubby guy, I think his name was, I can't remember. I think it might have been Eric or something. Something like that. Or Josh. I'm sorry, it was Josh. If I remember right, the chubby boy from Blair Witch. I haven't seen him in anything since Blair Witch. But, you know, like I said, Blair Witch I think is cleverly shot. A couple of other like non-American movies that I find are, well, Halloween related are the two Vampire Hunter D movies. There's Vampire Hunter D, the regular one, and then there's Vampire Hunter D Bloodlust. It's a Japanese anime movies. They're well shot. I mean, they're of the more adult level though. You know, because they are rated R. Because they're very mature related material. It's just a teacher or a professor at local college got me hooked onto them. He was Chinese himself, I think, of either Chinese or Japanese descent. I forget which. I think Chinese, but I wouldn't swear to it. But like I mentioned in one of the other previous videos, I, will yes go, help you if you pay me. And you and I can hash that detail out later. But I'm going to pause here and then I'm going to tell some more stories here and everything. So hang on.